Before I begin, I want you to do something with me. Take a deep breath, in and out. Because in the next few minutes, we are not just going to talk. We are going to change something, even if it's small, even if it's just one thought. Life doesn't ask us if we're ready before it breaks us. It doesn't wait for the right time to test us. It simply happens. And then it leaves us with a choice to stay broken or to rebuild ourselves piece by piece, habit by habit. I've learned through pain, through silence, through years of being told what I couldn't do, that the human spirit is not defined by what happens to us. It is defined by what we choose to do after it happens. And that choice every single time comes down to our habits, the small, quiet things we repeat every day until one day they become who we are. Let me begin with something I truly believe with every part of my being. Your habits are the mirror of your future self. Look closely and you will see it. Every choice you make today, every small action you repeat without even thinking about it, is quietly building the person you will become 5 years from now, 10 years from now, even tomorrow morning when you wake up. We often wait for some big moment to transform our lives. We wait for a miracle, a sign, a perfect Monday, a new year, a moment when everything suddenly aligns and we become who we've always wanted to be. But let me tell you something I learned the hard way. That moment never comes on its own. It is built brick by brick, habit by habit, in the ordinary hours of ordinary days that nobody is watching. When I was lying on that hospital bed, unable to move, unable to imagine a future beyond those four walls, I did not become resilient because of one dramatic decision. I became resilient because every single day I chose to think one hopeful thought instead of 100 hopeless ones. I chose again and again to hold a paintbrush instead of holding my grief. That repetition, that quiet, daily repetition, is what built the woman standing in front of you today. This is the truth about habits that nobody tells you enough. They are invisible in the moment, but they are undeniable in hindsight. Nobody sees the 5 extra minutes you spent reading instead of scrolling. Nobody sees the one kind word you chose to speak instead of the harsh one. Nobody sees you waking up 10 minutes earlier to sit with your own thoughts before the world demands your attention. But over months, over years, these invisible choices become the very visible shape of your life. Think about it this way. If you want to know what someone's next 10 years will look like, don't ask them about their dreams. Ask them about their mornings. Ask them how they speak to themselves when they fail. Ask them what they do when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when there is no applause waiting at the end of the effort. That is where the real future is being written. I have met people with the biggest dreams, the most beautiful visions for their lives, and yet their daily habits were quietly working against everything they claimed to want. And I have met people with the simplest, quietest goals who built extraordinary lives simply because their habits were aligned with who they wanted to become. The dream on its own has no power. It is the habit, repeated without glamour, without recognition, that carries the dream into reality. So when you go home today, I don't want you to ask yourself, what do I want to achieve? I want you to ask, what am I doing right now in this very moment that is shaping who I will be? Because your future is not waiting for you somewhere far away. It is being assembled today in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you treat your body, in the way you spend your evenings, in the way you respond when life knocks you down for the 100th time. I stand before you not because I had an extraordinary destiny handed to me, but because I made a decision over and over to build myself differently than my circumstances tried to shape me. Every single one of you has that same power. You are not a victim of your history. You are the architect of your habits, and your habits quietly, patiently, are already drawing the outline of the person you are going to meet in the mirror one day, whether you're paying attention or not. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Motivation is not a strategy. It is a spark, and sparks, by their very nature, do not last. You feel it when you watch an inspiring video at midnight, when you read a quote that hits you right in the chest, when you hear someone's story of survival and you promise yourself, from tomorrow everything will change, and for a day, maybe 2 it does. You wake up early, you eat clean, you write in your journal, you tell yourself this is the new you, and then life happens. The alarm doesn't wake you, the work pressure builds up, the sadness returns uninvited, and that spark, the one that felt so powerful just days ago, quietly dies out, and you are left thinking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I stay motivated? There is nothing wrong with you. Motivation was never designed to last. It is an emotion, and like every emotion, it rises and it falls. What actually changes a life is not the emotion. It is what you do when the emotion is gone. It is what you do on the days you don't feel like it. It is what you do when no one is clapping for you, when there is no stage, no camera, no applause, just you and a choice. I did not learn to live again because I woke up one morning feeling inspired. I learned to live again because I made a decision. And then I repeated that decision again and again, on the days it hurt the most. I painted not because I always felt like painting, but because I decided that this brush, this canvas, would be my language when my body had limits my spirit refused to accept. And slowly, that repetition became identity. It stopped being something I had to convince myself to do. It became simply who I was. This is the secret that no one tells you when you are chasing change. Repetition is unglamorous. It does not look like a movie montage. It looks like showing up on the boring days. It looks like doing the same small thing at the same small time until your mind stops arguing with you about it. Motivation says, I feel like it today. Repetition says, it doesn't matter how I feel. This is who I am now. And that is the difference between a person who tries to change and a person who actually transforms. Think about the people you admire the most. The athlete who trains at 5 a.m., even when their body is exhausted. The mother who shows up with patience even on her hardest day. The student who studies even when the results feel far away. None of them are running on motivation every single day. They are running on a decision they made once that they now simply repeat without needing to feel inspired each time. That repetition builds something motivation never can. Trust in yourself. Every time you repeat a good habit, even without motivation, you send a message to your own soul, I keep my promises. I am someone who follows through. And that message becomes more powerful than any speech, any quote, any moment of temporary excitement. So if you are waiting to feel ready, before you change your life, I want you to let go of that waiting today. You will not always feel ready. You will not always feel strong. You will not always feel motivated. But you can always choose to repeat one small action, one more time, even on the day you don't feel like it. That one repetition done 1,000 times is what rebuilds a person from the inside out. It is what rebuilt me. And it is available to every single person in this room right now without needing permission, without needing a miracle, without needing to wait for the spark to come back. Sometimes we spend our whole lives waiting for a new life to arrive. We wait for a new city, a new job, a new relationship, a new year, thinking that somewhere out there, a different version of our existence is hiding, ready to rescue us from the one we're currently living. We tell ourselves, once things change, I will change. But I want to tell you something that took me years and a lot of pain to understand. You don't need a new life. You need new habits. Because here is the truth nobody tells you: your life, as it stands today, is simply the sum of everything you've repeated. The way you speak to yourself when you fail. The way you spend your first hour after waking up. The way you react when someone hurts you. The way you treat your body, your time, your relationships. None of this happened by accident. It happened by repetition. And what has been built by repetition can only be rebuilt by repetition. I remember lying in a hospital bed, told that I would never walk again, that my body had betrayed me at 21 years old. In that moment, it would have been so easy to believe that my life was over, that I needed some external miracle, some new circumstance to make my existence bearable again. But miracles don't rebuild a life. Habits do. Every single day I had to choose, again and again, how I would speak to myself in that hospital bed. Whether I would let bitterness win, or whether I would practice painfully and repeatedly a kind of hope that didn't yet feel true, until one day it became true. This is what I mean when I say you don't need a new life. Because if I gave you a new life today, a new house, a new job, a new city, but you carried the same habits into it, within 6 months you would recreate the exact same struggles you have now, the same self-doubt, the same procrastination, the same relationships that drain you. Because the problem was never the life. The problem was the pattern. I've met people who changed countries hoping to escape themselves, only to find the same loneliness waiting for them on the other side of the world. Because you cannot outrun your habits by changing your geography. You can only outgrow them by changing your daily choices. And this is actually the most liberating truth I can offer you today. Because if the problem isn't your circumstances, if the problem is your habits, that means the solution is not something you have to wait for. It is not something that depends on luck or timing or someone else's permission. It depends on you, and it can begin today in this very ordinary, unremarkable moment. You don't need to wait until January. You don't need to wait until you feel motivated. You don't need to wait until your circumstances are perfect, because they will never be perfect. What you need is to choose one small habit, waking up 10 minutes earlier, speaking to yourself with more kindness, moving your body even when it's difficult, closing your phone 1 hour before you sleep, and repeat it not perfectly, but consistently. Because habits are not built in dramatic, cinematic moments. They are built in the boring, invisible repetitions that nobody applauds. Nobody claps for you when you choose to get out of bed on a hard day. Nobody notices when you choose water over another cup of coffee, or when you choose to breathe instead of react in anger. But it is precisely in those unnoticed, unglamorous moments that your entire future is being written. So when you leave here today, I don't want you to go home and search for a new life. I want you to go home and choose one habit, just one, that you are willing to repeat, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Because that single habit, repeated with patience, has more power to transform your life than any external change ever could. Today, I'm not here to give you a lecture. I'm here to share 10 habits that don't ask for your perfection, only your persistence. Habits that don't need a miracle, only a decision made today, made now. Because self-improvement isn't about becoming someone else. It's about finally becoming who you were always meant to be. So let's begin together.